Well, from midsummer to late summer, there's a plant that you've probably seen all your life, maybe didn't know much about. So now I'd like to share a little information about that plant. And that one is the wild carrot, but you might know it as Queen Anne's lace. It originated in Afghanistan of all places, and then it spread through Europe and finally got over to America. The plant is right here. It's growing in our yard. It likes soil that's really not that nutritious. It grows in relatively poor soil, kind of harsh conditions. The plant itself grows anywhere from 1 to 4 feet tall. The first year, it's a biennial plant, meaning it's a 2-year plant. The first year, you're going to be getting this rosette real close to the ground. And the foliage looks like the carrot that you see in the store. And it should, because it's a wild carrot, just like the orange carrot you see. However, if we would dig this up, the carrot that you're going to see in this first year plant is going to be small, probably 1.5 to 2 inches long, and it'll be white in color. The second year the plant grows, the actual root, the carrot part, is going to be actually very woody and not very good to eat, because the plant's going to put all its nutritional value into this umbel up here. So the umbel of the plant is relatively flat, and that's one way we're going to talk about how to distinguish it from a plant that people always say is a look-alike. We'll talk about that in a second. One way to distinguish the plant too, a lot of the plants will have a tiny little dot in the center. It'll either be red or purple. And that little dot, there's a legend about that. They say that Queen Anne, who was actually very good at tatting lace, was knitting her lace, and she pricked her finger with her knitting needles, and a drop of her blood dropped on her lace, and that's what that is. So that's what the legend has. But some, but not all, of these umbels will have that little red or purple dot there. So this is one good way to identify that you're looking at Queen Anne's lace. There'll be about, each one of these little white flowers is individual, and there'll be about 20 or 30 of them per complete umbel up here. So what you can do with the plant, pretty numerous. Naturally, the carrot you can eat and use just like a carrot. So if you're making your soup or your survival stew in a survival situation, you just cut it up, put it in your survival stew. Now, if you taste it, it'll smell identical to a carrot. If you smell it, it'll smell just like a carrot. The second year plant, like I said, the root's going to taste awful woody and wouldn't taste very good. So we're going to be looking either to the leaves or the umbel. Now, on the leaves, you want to make an infusion or a tea. An infusion is a tea of the leaves, and that'll get rid of kidney stones, and it'll help with any digestive problems you have. Not as good as peppermint. Making a peppermint tea is not the best way to soothe any stomach problems you have. But if you don't have peppermint, you can use the leaves of the Queen Anne's lace to act as a substitute if you have a little bit of an upset stomach. If you want to use these white umbels, you can make a jelly out of it. And the jelly uses some lemon juice. It's got a kind of a tart taste to it. Pretty tasty on some toast in the morning. Now, if you take these umbels also and you soak them, you can make an orange to yellow dye for any textiles you do, as long as you use some cream of tartar as a setting agent in your textiles. It'll make a pretty good permanent dye to it. So the Queen Anne's lace is a pretty useful plant that people just see alongside of the roads and disregard it. Now, a lot of people also say, well, there's a poison look-alike called poison hemlock. Well, the plants look vaguely similar. Just like you might say that a child has similar characteristics to its parents. Yeah, they might look similar, but I don't think you're going to mistaken one for the other. So I'll give you some tips on the difference between Queen Anne's lace and poison hemlock. First one is, if you look at the stem of a Queen Anne's lace and you look here, you'll see the stem is very tiny. If you look really close, the stem is hollow actually, and it has tiny hairs on it. The poison hemlock stem is probably as thick as my thumb, and it's smooth and shiny, and it has red blotches on it. Sometimes those blotches are bright red or maroon streaks running up the whole stem. That's your first clue. Second, the umbel is not this dense. It's very sparse, and it's much thicker. Second thing. Third is the bottom of the Queen Anne's lace. You see that it has these little brackets. They're in groups of 3 on the bottom under the flower. These brackets right under here. The poison hemlock has none of those. Third, the poison hemlock, rather than growing low to the ground like this, it'll be 5 to 6 feet tall. It'll be a huge plant towering up over you, where this is nice and close to the ground. And lastly, if you would pull up the root, the Queen Anne's lace, the root would smell just like a carrot, where the poison hemlock smells kind of like a rat's nest. It has an awful smell to it. So with those differences, I'll leave it up to you to decide if they are lookalikes. The poison hemlock does have a white umbel, and it looks similar to the Queen Anne's lace. But if you look at them side by side, you can see that there's quite a bit of difference between the Queen Anne's lace and the poison hemlock. So it's not enough for you to shy away from using the Queen Anne's lace, like I said, in your soups and stews. Use the leaves to get rid of kidney stones or to prevent kidney stones, or to make a soup or to add to your soups or stews, or to make a jam or jelly in your for your morning toast, or to make a dye. And for science experiments too. If your kids need a quick science experiment, you can take a stem and a flower and demonstrate capillary action by putting the stem in some water and put some food coloring in there, and the stem will suck up the colored water, and the actual umbel will start changing color as the colored water gets sucked up the stem and into the flower, and your child can do a little science write-up on how capillary action works and how the water gets sucked up in plants and in even our body and distributes through it. So that would be a good quick science experiment if they're doing something over summer school. But these plants will even be up into September or October. So early in the school year, it would make a good science experiment. So when you see these plants around the roadside, you'll know that they're not native to the United States, but they're a pretty useful plant, and you should add them even to your soups or stews, or to your normal breakfast diet if you want to make a jam or jelly out of it. So that's Queen Anne's lace. At Midwest Native Skills, we offer 3 plant classes throughout the year: a spring, a summer, and a fall plant class. And that's because the plants change during the year. And there's plants available in the spring that aren't available in the summer and fall, and the same thing with the fall plants that aren't available in the spring. So if you're interested in learning more about wild edible weeds, wild edible plants, and medicinal plants throughout the year, you might want to look up our plant classes. They're one-day classes, usually on a Saturday or Sunday, and they're offered again in the spring, summer, and fall. There's even a discount if you bring a friend.